There's a number you keep landing on. Not on purpose, but every time you add up how you're doing, the total snags on the same entry, the one thing someone said that cost you something. It sits under every sum you make of yourself, underlined in red. And meanwhile, in the same building, there's a room you haven't opened in years. It's full, floor to ceiling. Everything kind that anyone ever paid you is still in there, stacked, uncounted, waiting. So before we open that door, one question. Why does one debt feel heavier than a room full of gold? You keep books, not money, worth. Somewhere inside you, an accountant has been working your whole life, logging every verdict anyone ever passed on you, every well done, every you let me down, entry after entry, year after year, and you trust these books. When you ask yourself, am I doing okay? This is the ledger you check. But the accountant follows a rule you never agreed to. He does not record by what's true. He records by what's expensive and by what's rare. So the most important document you own, the running total of whether you're enough, was written by a clerk with a bias you've never audited. So maybe the problem was never the verdicts other people gave you. Maybe it's the bookkeeping. Here's the first half of his rule. Kindness arrives like coins. The very first time someone says they're proud of you, it gleams. The accountant looks up. He weighs it, stamps it, sets it down with care. But the same coin, paid in again the next day, and the next, starts to dull. By the 100th time, someone steady has loved you the same quiet way. He doesn't even lift his head. This is the oldest habit your mind has. It stops recording what stays the same. It only wakes up for what changes. Steadiness becomes silence, not because it stopped, but because it kept going. So the people who never stopped showing up became the ones you stopped counting. Their love didn't go quiet. Your ledger did. So, who has been paying you in gold that you've been filing as gray? Now the other half of his rule. One day a different kind of entry arrives. Not a coin, a cost. Someone says the cruel exact thing. And because it's rare, and because it took something from you, the accountant doesn't reach for his stamp. He reaches for a chisel. He cuts it into the stone wall of the vault, where nothing fades, where you'll pass it every single day. Your mind weighs a thing that's taken far heavier than a thing that's given, even when they're the same size. A debt of 10 cuts deeper than a gift of 10 ever warms. So that one sentence wasn't carved because it was the truest thing ever said about you. It was carved because it was the rarest. Since when did rare start meaning real? So add it up the way he does. 100 coins he stopped recording, one debt he can't stop reading, and the total at the bottom of the page comes out as not enough. This is how a person can have a life full of people who love them and still feel quietly bankrupt. How you can be told you did well by everyone who matters and walk home certain you failed. The vault is full, the books say empty, and you believe the books because it never occurred to you to question the clerk. You are not standing in poverty. You're standing in a fortune you were taught not to count. So what would the real total be if every coin still counted? So how do you correct the books? Not by scratching out the debt. It's real, it happened. Pretending costs you your honesty. And the accountant always knows when you're lying. You correct them by calling an audit. You go down into the vault yourself, past the carved wall you know by heart, and you pick up the coins he stopped counting, one by one, on purpose, And here's the strange part. When you actually pick an old kindness back up and turn it over in your hands, the dust comes off. The gold was always under there. You don't get to feel rich by being told you are. You feel it by counting. So, when was the last time you picked one up on purpose? But one audit won't hold. By morning, the accountant drifts back to his old rule. Gold becomes grey, the rare gets carved. So the real work isn't a single count. It's teaching the clerk a new rule. When something steady is paid to you, the friend who always answers, the love that simply keeps showing up, you name it. You make him stamp the coin because it came again, not in spite of it. A kindness you say out loud gets reweighed. The books are not law. They can be kept differently. The debt doesn't have to be erased. It only has to stop being the whole story. One carved line in a book you finally started keeping honestly. So which steady gift have you never once written down? One insult can outweigh 100 kindnesses only on books kept by a clerk who stopped counting the kind ones. You can change the rule, not all at once, just one entry. Before you sleep tonight, go find one coin you stopped recording, one steady, ordinary, repeated good thing, and count it, out loud if you can, not to feel better, to keep honest books. The wound was loud, but it was never the whole account. You were never poor. You just stopped counting what never stopped coming. What has been paid to you again and again that you've never once written down? Tonight, find one and write it down.